This is a $10 trillion Zimbabwe note. I can buy nothing with it, not even eggs. Hi, guys. I was thinking about this last week. Let me tell you, we had a 3-hour session last week, and I was so energized by the end of it. I love these lives, so I want to start by thanking every single one of you for being here, because this truly is my most favorite day of the week. So we're going to dive in because there's a lot that's happening in these markets. And with President Trump delaying the 50% tariff on European Union, the markets are soaring. Consumer confidence is soaring. But he didn't say that he's not going to do tariffs, and there is tariff inflation that is trickling down because corporations have no idea what's going on. And the markets and corporations like certainty. So we will get this certainty, but does it mean that suddenly, because consumer sentiment is soaring now, does it mean that we're out of the woods, that everything is just hunky-dory? No, it does not. What it does is it sets up for an even bigger disappointment when that tariff inflation really rears its ugly head. So it makes it so much more important to have your physical gold, your physical silver, your sound money strategy set up so that it doesn't really matter. I did an interview this morning with Kai Hoffman over at SOAR Financials. And he asked me, the last question that he asked me was really an interesting question. And I'm going to put this out to you. I don't know if anybody could answer this question, but he's like, what is it that you're not seeing? I'm paraphrasing, but what is it that you're not seeing that could happen? I don't know. That's why they're called a black swan event. Although in New Zealand and in Australia, but in New Zealand particularly, lots and lots and lots of black swans. So if I knew it, then I'd be watching it. Nobody really knows what event might possibly come out of left field that nobody is really paying attention to. Or there's a small group, because I think it's in the derivative markets, that are paying attention, but they're the ones that dictate whether or not we see it until they lose control. My job is to translate financial noise into understandable language so that you can make an educated choice on putting your best interests first. I don't even care if you disagree with me. I will fight to the death for your right to make that choice. All I'm really trying to do is help you make educated choices. We only have one more support level to address before we are in no man's land, and I think that will trigger then the hyperinflation. And as more and more digits get put on the currency to buy those everyday goods and services that we buy, then the less confidence people will have. And so it's a self-fulfilling doom loop. Just like, because this is the other part of that doom loop, the world turning away from the dollar and the dollar-denominated assets, specifically the treasury bonds, which is the foundation of the global markets. It's been going like this with all the volatility, which is really not what you want to see inside of a foundation, right? Then you're on a fault line. So you could say the whole world right now is on a fault line. And, so we get the loss of confidence, then we get the hyperinflation, and then we get the revaluation. So I'm kind of saying it like it's kind of an easy thing, but these things take time. I don't think the revaluation is going to happen this year because we haven't even, and we need a melt up, right? So there are a few things, there are a few triggers that I'm personally looking for that will indicate when we go into that mode. But 100%, I will tell you that there's already been some pattern shifts. So I think we're already in it. It's just not obvious. That's what you're really asking me, is when is it going to become obvious, and so obvious that we need to lop off zeros. And there's your overnight reset against gold. I would say within the next 2 to 3 years. But that's a guess, and I'm either going to be right or I'm going to be wrong, which means it could be sooner, it could be later. But in the meantime, you utilize this time to learn more skills, to get your sound money strategy in place and executed, to make sure that you have surety in food, water, energy, security, barterability, which you know for me is primarily silver. Anything physical is barterable. Any talents you have is also barterable. Your wealth preservation, which for me is gold. Community, you have the time to build the community, and the more time that you can take to do that, the more confidence people will have inside of that community, and of course shelter, and that does include your medications and all of that. But call us, let us walk you through that, and we'll help you make educated choices always, even if you disagree with us. Remember, ultimately, the choices and the decisions are yours, and you are the one that is going to suffer the consequence or reap the rewards of any of those choices that you make. Just hopefully they're educated, and we're doing it together so that you're not alone. Is it getting more expensive, or is the currency getting less valuable? That's the piece. If you can have that paradigm shift to understand that this currency is losing its purchasing power value, that shifts everything. It shifted everything for me. I'm sure it will for you. And Samuel spit, but keep laughing, because we've got to laugh inside of this. I hope I don't seem like this really negative doom and gloomer, because personally, I have a lot of hope. And part of that is in the community, because we've been pushed away from each other. So we're not having these conversations, but I think we're coming back together again. And that's really important to have happen. And Samuel Spade asked, I am spending money on staples that have a shelf life due to the lying about inflation rate. That may be construed as confidence. It's the exact opposite. I have no confidence. Sure, exactly. You are prepping, and good for you. That's exactly what you should be doing. And if something has a shelf life, because I have long storage food up at my bug out location too. And so when I go up there, okay, so I brought down a flat of canned tomatoes because we want to rotate that stock, right? So you use the oldest first, and then you fill in with the newest. Yes, it is. Making sure that you have all of that stuff, even though it looks like you have confidence in the economy because you're spending money. I agree with you, Samuel. It's just the opposite. You're spending that money because you have no confidence, and you want to make sure that you can continue to eat. And Master Sensei asks, correction, buy now, pay later has soared. Yes, buy now, pay later. But let me tell you, the cost of that later pay is ever so dear. That soared? Yeah, it's because people can't afford their lives anymore. And that's all by design. And Caleb's Carnivore Quest asked, hi, this is my first time. Well, welcome, Caleb. I'm really glad you're here. I'm 16 years old, and I want to know your opinion on what I should be investing into. I own silver, gold, and crypto. What should I put more money into? I also have some cash, but I don't like to hold on to a lot of cash. Well, Caleb, part of it is, are you executing a strategy with your family? Because then you can commingle everything. And, the point of, and actually, if you give us a call, we will help you determine that. But you cannot have too much gold and silver, because the reality is, and we just recorded it this morning. Is that one going out on Saturday or Thursday? Okay, on Saturday, the difference between intrinsic value, which is really a Wall Street concoction, and fundamental value, which is the true value of an asset for its most important function. And when you look at that, here's what I believe with all my heart. You should always hold the lion's share of your wealth in an undervalued asset that is in a long-term positive trend, and the least amount of your wealth in an overvalued asset that's in a long-term negative trend. How do you know that? You know that something is in a positive trend when you see higher and higher lows. Because if you keep getting higher lows, you're going to end up with higher highs. Conversely, you know it's a negative trend when you keep seeing lower and lower highs, because ultimately you will get lower lows. But the real trend that they never really talk about too much, and they certainly never show you the chart, is on the Federal Reserve Education Department, the Fred, purchasing, go in there, FRED, and you go in the search bar and you put purchasing power of the consumer dollar. And what you will see is a consistent downward trend. Thank you guys so much. I can't even tell you how much you're being here really and truly means to me. It means the world to me. And hopefully, as I'm out there in the world roaming, you're there too, and we can meet in person, face to face, or as we get closer to it, if you're going to be in Phoenix, when we're going to be doing the live event in person in our amphitheater, and every day we're one day closer, then I hope to meet you in person, because we are a community and we have to stick together, and we have to help those that don't see it. We have to help them. That's our obligation as a fellow human being. And until next we meet, I know together we can do anything. You be safe out there. Bye-bye.